Welcome back, everyone, to another reaction video. Well, thank you guys so much for the fantastic response yesterday to my first time taking a look at Lamino. Seems like everybody really enjoyed that, and we will be getting to their Jack the Ripper video probably sometime next week. I am off to Connecticut tomorrow, so I'm going to be trying to finish up editing my next Vicksburg video, and I'll try to get that up to you guys tomorrow. We also have a patron-only stream that'll be happening tomorrow. I'll be posting the details as well as a link to that for anyone who's a patron or anyone who is a member here on YouTube. That'll be a private stream we'll be doing from my hotel room in Connecticut when I get there tomorrow. So also going to be shooting a little bit of original content for the channel there as well. But I want to dive into something a little different today. And this is Smashing UK Productions video on what they believe to be the top 15 World War II films. I thought it'd be something fun, a little bit different, give us a chance to talk about some of our favorite movies. You guys hear me talk about historical films that I like all the time. So we'll go ahead and do that. And I want to give a big shout out to John Lindley, who is our very first executive producer level patron. So thank you for that, and you'll be seeing his name at the end of all the videos for that. And thank you to all the new patrons that have signed up in the last couple of days. If you don't see your name listed in the description below where it should be, fear not, it's coming. I usually update those every few days, so give me some time to take care of that. All right, let's go ahead and dive in.
Hello viewers, and as always, welcome back. Following on from our World War I video, we're moving on to take a look at the best World War II films. Now, we previously made this list before back in 2014, however we felt it was heavily outdated and quite lacking, so here we have a more thorough and more expansive look at the 15 best World War II films. Bear in mind we're only looking at movies here, so miniseries such as Band of Brothers and Generation War won't be included.
Which, by the way, are both phenomenal. Band of Brothers and Generation War. Generation War has been often described as the German Band of Brothers. It follows a group of Germans. It's in German, which I've actually really enjoyed because my son and I are doing German lessons together, my 9-year-old son. And so it's cool to be able to watch and see what I can pick up and follow. I'm not quite to the place where I can understand everything yet, but I'm getting there. So I highly recommend both of those series.
Number 15, Dunkirk.
I'll let him talk about each one, then give my thoughts.
Christopher Nolan's latest war film offering Dunkirk depicts the evacuation of Allied troops from Dunkirk beach from three perspectives: land, air and sea. These three narrative segments tie together to create a story that's as much about suffering and survival as it is about the battle. Shot in large format film and with minimalist dialogue, Dunkirk has a sober feel to it, and Nolan's achievement is giving his film scale and intimacy at the same time.
What do you see? Home.
Number 4.
All right, so let's talk about Dunkirk for a minute. I loved Dunkirk. I thought it was great. My least favorite part of Dunkirk was the way the story was told. Now, it's Christopher Nolan. He did the Batman movies. He did Inception. So he's got a very particular, unique style, and it fits with that. But there's it's not like the timeline is weird. Like, it shows things after they happen, and it's like Inception, World War II. So I didn't like that part, but the acting's great. The way everything's shot is fantastic. Artistically, it's a beautiful, beautiful movie, and it does a good job of telling the story. I just wasn't crazy about the whole timeline part of how they did things, but I still recommend it. It's very, very good.
14. Downfall.
Excellent. Oh, this is so good.
Genommen und stößt auf Stahnsdorf vor. Der Feind operiert jetzt am nördlichen Stadtrand zwischen Frohnau und Pankow, und im Osten ist der Feind bis zur Linie Lichtenberg-Marsdorf-Karlshorst gelangt.
This claustrophobic account of the last days of Nazi Germany takes place within the dark corridors of Hitler's bunker. The movie follows the downfall of the Third Reich as well as the mental decline of its insane leader. Thanks to its physical setting and the unhinged headspace of the main characters, the film gives viewers a handle on the sickness that infects all of those who identified as Nazis.
Ich war eher von der Akademie. Und doch habe ich allein auf mich gestellt, ganz Europa erobert.
Number 13.
So Bruno Ganz, who plays Hitler, is phenomenal in that movie, and the acting's great. Again, it's in German. but really, really well done. And it shows, I don't want to say it humanizes Hitler so much as it doesn't show him as a caricature, like the evil dictator guy that's always yelling. Like, it shows a more complete picture of what he was like. And it's really, really good. It focuses on a very specific part of the story, which is basically those final days in the bunker. And I think it follows like the story of a secretary that gets hired by Hitler, but really, really good, and I highly recommend it. Now, this next one I have not seen, so I don't really have much to offer here.
Rome Open City. The wounds of European conflict and Nazi occupation were still tender in Rome in late 1944, which chimed with the documentary instincts of Italian filmmaker Roberto Rossellini. Rome Open City drew on real issues and situations during the years of conflict. Needless to say, the brutality of the occupying regime is presented with a shocking frankness, and Rossellini's style lent the film its gritty newsreel aesthetic, but provided a real sense of urgency and anguish.
So it's cool. I haven't seen that one, but it's not a perspective we get very often, getting to see what was going on the ground in Italy during the war. And remember, to a lot of Italians, they were occupied, like you said there. The Germans had the military there, and they had been kind of taken over in this almost like a military coup by Mussolini back in the 20s and 30s. And so a lot of people did not support their government's involvement with Hitler and being part of the Axis powers. I think that's part of the reason why Italy so quickly dropped out of the war as soon as the Allies landed in Sicily and they got a chance to. So it's cool that there is a story that tells that, especially one that is telling it so close to when the events occurred.
Number 12, A Man Escaped.
Haven't seen this either.
Based on the memoirs of André Devenier, a French resistance fighter who was captured and incarcerated in Lyon during the Second World War, A Man Escaped is a film whose drama is told in a mass of small details, with the expressions passing across the faces of non-professional actors, the objects that take on an important significance in the cell, and the use of off-screen sound that tells us so much about the space beyond these four walls.
La coïncidence de son arrivée avec la notification de ma peine m'avait frappé. J'avais plus de temps à perdre. Il allait falloir choisir ou emmener Jost avec moi ou le supprimer. Dans ce cas, le plus lourd de mes crochets serait une arme efficace.
Number 11, The Cranes Are Flying.
Wow, there's a lot of these that I've never seen before. I will say this. One of the things I like about some of these films, even though I haven't seen them, what they're portraying of it, I like stories told in the context of World War II that aren't necessarily about the entire war, where we get little detailed looks at things like Downfall, where we see the final days. Or there was a movie that came out starring Tom Selleck about Eisenhower and the planning of D-Day. It's a different perspective, a different look. It doesn't try to do too much. It focuses on one very specific thing, focusing on the French resistance, focusing on what was happening in Rome during World War II. These are interesting stories.
Made in the wake of Stalin's death, this Russian film tells the tale of two devoted lovers in Moscow who were separated by the Second World War without even saying goodbye. Like Mikhail Kalatozov's later much-celebrated Soy Cuba, The Cranes Are Flying is more akin to cinematic poetry and allows the audience to absorb a tremendous feeling of sympathy from this film, a feeling that has no awareness of geographical or political bounds.
So I'm starting to get the sense, and maybe I'm wrong about this we'll see the rest, that the person putting together this list, and this is fine because everybody has their criteria that they use, really values the artistic aspect of things. So they really, Dunkirk's very cinematic, very artistic, things like that. So I would expect that 1917 was probably on their World War I list for some of the same reasons. So interesting. That's cool. I mean, everybody has their own criteria.
Number 10, The Bridge on
great
the River
movie.
Kwai.
Belligerents may employ as workmen
Alec Guinness, the future Obi-Wan Kenobi.
other than officers. By all means, you read English, I take it.
A story of the blurred line between enslavement and collaboration, David Lean's film drips with jungle sweat as Alec Guinness tries to protect his men from Japanese cruelty as they work to build a strategically important railway bridge in Burma. The cinematography, the sets, and the supporting performances are all terrific, but it's all in orbit around Guinness's towering performance as the man torn between duty and honour.
What have I done?
Number 9.
So good. Bridge Over the River Kwai, and it's got that famous whistling thing that everybody remembers. Really, really good. And I can see, again, the pianist, this guy definitely bends toward the artsy. And that's great. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that.
Pianist.
By the way, he's phenomenal in Peaky Blinders as a gangster. Definitely check it out.
Roman Polanski kicks off the 21st century with a sophisticated, Oscar-winning World War II survival drama which not only offered an authentic depiction of the Warsaw Ghetto, but proved that, controversy aside, the director could still deliver when it mattered. Adrian Brody deservedly picked up the Best Actor Oscar for his muted portrayal of Jewish concert pianist Władysław Spielman, whose mission to stay alive against titanic odds is an inspiring testament of a human instinct for self-preservation.
Was ist los? Geht's ihn ab? Die Russen da? Noch nicht.
Number 8, The Great.
And yeah, and again, that's an undertold story, the story of the Warsaw Ghetto during World War II and the uprising that comes toward the end when the Soviets get close. And I wish we told more stories like that. The Great Escape, again, phenomenal.
Escape.
That's Steve McQueen? I think it is.
Based on the mass escape of British prisoners from the German war camp Stalag Luft 3 in March 1944, The Great Escape follows 24 of these men as they sneak through Nazi-occupied territory back to safety. While the real-life event wasn't quite as glamorous as this Hollywood version, the movie maintains the elements of suspense and patriotism that are true to the original incident.
How many?
50. It looks, after all, as if you will see Berlin before I do.
Number 7, Army of Shadows.
So yeah, Great Escape's a great one. They have the tunnels called Tom, Dick, and Harry, and yeah, it's a really, really cool story. And again, an aspect of World War II we don't normally get to see. Army of Shadows, I'm not familiar with.
Lassen Sie Feuer geben.
Gib Feuer!
French film Army of Shadows gives viewers a look at the seldom portrayed part of the human spirit where hope and fatalism coincide. The movie follows a group of French resistance fighters as they move invisibly under the noses of the Nazis that have come to occupy their town, killing informers and working to pass along information that might free their country from this iron grip. Prison escapes are brief and unglamorous, espionage is grueling and perilous, and emotions, speeches and friendships remain suppressed at all times. It's a cold, meticulous drama about the pressures of propping an entire country on your shoulders.
Faut bien se débrouiller comme on peut par ces temps de misère.
C'est tout naturel.
Ce serait pas trop mal dans ce camp. C'est le meilleur camp qui soit en France. C'est le camp des Allemands.
Number 6, The Thin Red Line.
This is the first one I disagree with. The Thin Red Line was pretty good. And I know a lot of people really like it, and I'll probably get some people who don't agree with me on this. I wasn't blown away by the Thin Red Line. This is right about the time that Saving Private Ryan came out, and I think there was a lot of comparison of the two, but it was good. I just didn't like, if I was making my list of top 15, I don't think it would make it.
My dear wife.
Kind of a really like an artsy take on things, you know, a heavy focus on the cinematography and on the score and on the way the story is told, which is great. It's not necessarily my first criteria though.
And noise.
After a 20-year absence from Hollywood, Terrence Malick returned in 1998 to direct The Thin Red Line, based on the novel of the same name. While on its surface the film tells a fictionalised version of the Guadalcanal campaign battle, its much deeper focus is on our inherent need to kill and how that destruction seems to be at odds with our very nature.
Adrian Brody
With a huge
again.
ensemble cast including Sean Penn, John Cusack, Nick Nolte, George Clooney, John Travolta, Woody Harrelson and many more.
Interesting that he didn't mention Jim Caviezel, who he actually showed there in that picture.
A war can put it out. Conquer it.
Number 5, Das Boot.
Definitely. Excellent. One of the best of all time.
Originally made as a 5-hour miniseries for German TV, cut to feature length for worldwide consumption, and finally expanded again to a 210-minute director's cut, Wolfgang Petersen's breathless, terrifying U-boat drama remains the most claustrophobic of all World War II movies.
I don't think I ever knew that it was made as a 5-hour miniseries for German TV. That's really interesting. But I did not know that. But yeah, the claustrophobic, that's the first word that comes to mind, which is great because that's what you want to do, is you want the audience to feel what these guys are feeling. I mean, if you asked me what is the one job you would absolutely not want to have in World War II, it would be being on a U-boat. No, thank you. No.
The film is a masterclass in economical, tight-spaced storytelling, piling the pressure on both characters and audience until the sprockets squeak.
Yep. Really good. And I believe they actually shot this in France at one of the still existing subpens. Look at all those practical effects, man. That's great.
Number 4, Casablanca.
There is no exit visa for him.
Louis, whatever gave you the
I
impression?
guess I never really thought of this one as being a World War II movie. It's one of the great movies of all time.
That I might be interested in helping Laszlo escape.
Because, my dear Ricky, I suspect that under that cynical shell, you're at heart a sentimentalist.
The romantic drama spends most of its running time in Rick's nightclub, apart from the glorious climax at the airport. But with its war-torn setting and the constant presence of soldiers from both Germany and Vichy France, Casablanca is undoubtedly a classic war film too. The stars, the script, director and music all align perfectly to create one of Hollywood's greatest, most loved and most legendary films.
No. He's looking at you, kid.
Number 3, Schindler's List.
I think most people have seen this one. So good. Schindler's List, and I've said this before about some things, like you talk to people who visit Auschwitz, and I know many of you have, and I hope that someday I'll get the chance to do that. I've had a lot of people tell me Auschwitz is one of those places you have to visit, but once you go, you never want to go there again. And Schindler's List is like that for me. It's a movie I think everyone should see, but I don't think I ever want to watch it again. And I think you all understand what I mean without having to go into it too much.
A grueling tale, this Spielberg masterpiece follows a German Nazi, Oskar Schindler, as he saves 1,200 Jewish people from being transported to concentration camps and certain death. Over 3 hours long and shot almost entirely in black and white, Schindler's List is incredibly hard to stomach and incredibly important for that exact reason.
Yep.
The film changed the way the Holocaust was portrayed in Hollywood and inspired a series of narrative features that followed suit. Number 2, Saving Private Ryan.
Saving Private Ryan to me is an interesting one. I think the opening 20 minutes or so of the Omaha Beach landing is some of the best historical film that will ever be made. It is absolutely phenomenal. Shows the horror of that scene in a way that few have. I didn't really care all that much for the rest of the story. One of my favorite parts, though, is at the very end, the part where Tom Hanks' character is dying, spoiler, sorry, and he says to Private Ryan, he says, "Earn this." And then you cut to the shot of Private Ryan as an old man at Captain Miller's grave, asking his wife if he's lived a good life, and whether, just wondering in his own mind, was the sacrifice of all these men worth it? And I know it's loosely based on the Nyland brothers, but I'm torn on this one. I really am. Because I love the historic parts. I could do without the rest.
In our last video, Saving Private Ryan topped the list, and whatever snags people might find with the film, ultimately it is an incredible movie. Admittedly, the film does have somewhat pro-war tendencies in certain areas, so might not be to everyone's taste, but the incredible opening sequence on Omaha Beach alone shows the realistic brutality and horrors of war. With Spielberg hanked and all of its Oscars, it's easy to be a tad sceptical about the film, but a repeat viewing blows away the cobwebs with a furious, men-in-combat film that balances camaraderie with gale force action.
And the scene where the one guy, I forget his name, gets stabbed by the German. Oh, the intimacy and the brutality of that scene. That's a tough one for me to watch because it's so real. Because it's so I don't even know how to put it into words. But that scene to me really, really sticks out in my mind.
Pincer move, Parker! Target's 8 o'clock low!
And Barry Pepper's great in anything.
Before we reveal our number one film, here are some honourable mentions that just missed the list. Inglourious Bastards.
If a rat were to...
Again, I don't really consider... I mean, it is a World War II movie in that it's set in World War II and follows soldiers, but it's completely fictional. But holy cow, was Kryštof Waltz not amazing in that role? That's the first thing I remember seeing him in, and I think it led to his superstardom. But he's been great in everything. But boy, he was so good in that movie.
Walk in here right now as I'm talking.
The Dirty Dozen.
Oh yeah, one of my all-time favorites. And we're going to actually be visiting Lee Marvin's grave when I go to Arlington because he's buried at Arlington National Cemetery.
All you can do as you're told.
There's Donald Sutherland.
Patton.
Oh, how could you not have Patton in your top 15? Oh my gosh, there's so many movies. I'm going to give you some of my favorites that didn't make this list at the end. But oh my gosh, even though George C. Scott talks nothing like the real Patton, he embodies Patton. And the story is actually remarkably close to the real history.
I'm a winner. And will not tolerate a loser.
Ivan's Childhood.
Never saw that. Must be a Russian movie.
The Guns of Navarone.
Pretty good.
Where Eagles Dare.
Not bad. Not one of my favorites.
A Bridge Too Far.
Yes! Came out the year I was born. One of my favorites. Star-studded. Never saw that.
Letters from Iwo Jima.
Oh, very good. So Letters from Iwo Jima and Flags of Our Fathers tell the same story. One from the Japanese perspective and one from the American perspective. Both very, very good.
The Big Red One.
Never saw that. I don't know why I haven't seen that. It's about the 1st Infantry Division.
Number one, Come and See.
I won't argue with that. This is another one of those movies that you have to see, but it's really, really hard to watch. And I will not disagree with this being the number one pick. I won't. I might not have put it there myself, but it'd certainly be in my top 5, but I won't argue with this pick.
Making the infamous opening of Saving Private Ryan look like a Sunday stroll in the park, this Belarusian film from L.M. Klimov is a hallucinatory masterpiece that feels like the nearest cinema has ever come to recreating the ruthlessly discombobulating sensory experience of war. This is a film that a lot of people still haven't seen, so we only thought it right to save it for topping our list, just to urge viewers to go out and give the film a watch.
I agree.
Not
Watch
just for
it.
its strikingly candid take on the human toll of warfare, but as a work of sublime visual and oral intensity that uses every tool in the filmmaker's arsenal to unforgettable and often nauseating effect to show the true horrors of war in Belarus. Thank you for watching.
Yeah, Come and See is powerful and hard to watch and really important to watch. I would add The Longest Day on there. What else would I add? Tora, Tora, Tora. I don't know how you can have one without Tora, Tora, Tora in there. Tora, Tora, Tora is really cool because they had 2 separate film crews. One that did all the Japanese storylines and one that did all the American ones. And then they put them together in one movie. So it's really cool. And it's still by far the best, I think, best movie set in the Pacific Theater during the entire war. That has ever been made. So let me know your thoughts. What would you add that isn't in there? What would you maybe not have put in there that did make the top 15. And as always, thank you to all of our patrons, and we will see you again soon. Thanks for watching.